Here on the Jenny Kirk channel today, we're going to be looking at the venerable Bachmann Queen Mary brake van in the very eye-catching red and yellow Satlink Western livery. This is in the main range, but we're going to be taking a good closer look in depth. So join me now as we delve a little bit deeper. Hi there, how are you doing? It's really good to see you there again. And we've got another box opening and review because we've had an awful lot of toys to play with and get out of the box. But I know that you also want to take a really good look at some of the stuff that I've managed to pick up over the last few weeks. So without further ado, let's take a closer look. Well, what we've got here is it's a main range item. So I'll show you the catalogue number there first. We've got 33831, main range item, and the more eagle-eyed of you who've been looking back through my videos, been keeping up to date, will know that we covered the Kirk Model Centre Special Edition Queen Mary brake van in the Engineer's two-tone green livery. So I'm not really going to dwell too much on the construction aspects of this model because I'm pretty confident that they're going to really square up. So I'd only be covering old ground. So if you want to have a look at an in-depth review of the base model itself, have a look back through and have a look at that video to get the nuts and bolts of it. So today what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on the livery application. So 33, as I said before, it's an older model. This particular one in the main range, it comes ready weathered, but the Satlink livery that's on it has previously been released, but only as a special commission for Model Rail magazine. So I don't actually have that, so I can't compare the two. But it would be interesting to see whether the running number on this is actually different or not. And I'm sure that somebody will let me know in the comments. Now we're going to slip this on out. It's quite a tight fit in here. It's been really shoved in here. Quite tight. Oh, that really doesn't want to come out, does it? What is that jamming on? Let's try from the other end. I've not really had this before with the Bachmann models before, where I'm actually stuck in the box. That is actually a really tight fit. Now I suspect when these are put together that it may well be the case that the box is formed up and glued around this inner. So actually it's more than possible if it's been a bit too gung-ho for it to get quite tight like that. And I know certainly there's been, I think it was the National Railway Museum Class 20 that we did a review of quite a while back now. That also showed signs of being far too tight in the box. Indeed, I've never actually been able to get the outer sleeve back on that box. But we can see there, this has been packed by probably by a different person to the Kirk Model Centre one, because things are all in a different place. And actually, what's interesting there is that the little paper insert, which was just loose in the box in the last one, in this particular model, is actually inside this plastic bag with the footboard. So that's a bit different, and it's just held in place there with a bit of tape. So we're going to leave that be, and we're going to pop this out. Now I'm going to put the box to one side. And the first thing that has to be noted on this, in my mind, is the weathering. And it's something that certainly I've seen on some of the Daypole models. They go a bit too gung-ho with the weathering and actually ends up detracting from the model, not adding to it. But in this particular case, the weathering that Bachmann has applied to this is really quite subtle, and I really like it. I think this actually does add a lot more than a heavy weathering, which can be so easy to do badly. So we just see that ever so slight dusting of kind of the brake dust, dirty feel, and that kind of tones down the paintwork and really gives a really nice effect without overwhelming the underlying detail. But what we have here is a fairly familiar two-tone red and yellow of the Satlink livery. Now I think we've done a Satlink item before, certainly In my collection, I've got a few of the Satlink wagons that have been released thus far, and up until now they've all appeared to have been special commissions by Model Rail magazine. That's been kind of one of their things, in the same way that Model Zone latched onto RTC, well, Model Rail latched onto Satlink. So I've got a Gov, I've got a ZCA, which is a former OCA wagon, and also a Mogo wagon in the Satlink livery. So this is going to be a nice addition to those. But Satlink, the Sat was signal and telegraphy, and it's really to do with the signalling equipment. So in a lot of places where the signalling system was being upgraded, going from semaphores to colour aspect signals, well, the Satlink wagons would be part of the construction crews for doing that, and that's kind of what they were about. And in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of these little bits of British Rail were branded with their own particular corporate identity, and in a way it was kind of shadowing the forthcoming privatisation, so parcelling up BR into these nice little unique bits. And they tended to paint their wagons in some quite colourful liveries, such as this. Now, we've also got, I've noticed there, the white rims on the wheels. But if I spin these round, I don't know whether you can catch that, the weathering, really, this is something that always detracts in weathering, and I've seen it happen from all manufacturers. They don't rotate the wheels when they're doing the weathering, it's just a blow over with an airbrush. And what you get there is you get sort of like clean spots where they've been hidden behind the frame of the bogie and haven't got the weathering applied to them. And when it's spinning, that always, it sticks out like a sore thumb to me. So that would be quite a big detraction. I'm not quite sure how they could kind of overcome this, other than to either, one method is you rotate the wheels as you're weathering it, but that would be quite difficult. Another one would be to weather the wheels separately from the wagon and then have the assembly stage afterwards. But again, that brings in other logistical problems whereby you might be having people handling something that might still be slightly wet on the weathering coat application, so prone to smudging. So, it's one of those things that maybe there's a compromise, and this is the compromise. The actual detail on the wagon, as we've discussed in the previous review, there's not a lot of separately applied detail, but what there is here, this raised moulded detail, is actually quite nicely picked out with the tempo printing. So we've got this rendition of air pipes or vacuum pipes. In fact, it's coded YZW, so that'll be either air pipe or the vacuum brake line would be my suspicion, but it's nicely picked out with the tempo printing, so it does actually look like a separately applied detail. And really what this shows is that these models sometimes having separately applied detail, which adds to the cost because somebody's got to assemble those, there's the design aspect, the separate components being made, it's something that if it doesn't add to the look of the wagon, then certainly moulded on detail such as this is perfectly acceptable in my book. Now, the livery application itself, the tempo printing of the lettering, is really quite crisp. The only detraction that I can see is actually on the tops code there, the YZW. The Z itself, it's fallen, unfortunately, right where the planking is, and the bottom bit of the Z has kind of got lost into the noise of the planking. It's something that really, it's not quite looking right in my mind. That said, I haven't seen a photograph of the full-sized one. It may be that that is actually an accurate copy of the real one. But I don't know, to me that looks like it's something that really, it's just an unfortunate placing of where it's tempo printed. The rest of the lettering is all very, very sharp, and I've got every single faith that under very close magnification that this model is going to be as sharp as anything can be. We've also got the Satlink logo there on the guards ducket, and that has really come out nice. And a lot of these sort of logos, crests, things like that are just done so well these days that really there's just nothing to find fault with. The rest of the livery application, well, we've got, let's have a look. It's interesting actually. Again, it's something I need to go away and have a look for. I don't know whether it's going to come up on this video. When we look into the veranda, the actual end planking on the cabin itself is a weird sort of dark grey colour. Given that the other Queen Mary brakes that I've got in my collection have all managed to have accurately coloured planking on the end of the cabin in there, I can only conclude that that is perfectly accurate for this model, but I'm going to go and check that out. We don't have sprung buffers, none of these do, but yeah, it's absolutely fine. There is a bit of a slab sort of effect on the ends here, and I think it's a case of the mono application of the colour and the overspray of the weathering as a sort of a uniform blast hasn't really helped this particular area of the model, and I think it's something that if you want to add a little bit of editing yourself, it was certainly, these are areas where you can pick out some of the rivet detail and just generally go to town, make it look a little bit more individual, and it will certainly improve the model. The roof as well, it looks good in this this sort of dark grey. I think really suits these models, and it's something that for example, the Mogo wagon that I've got actually has a yellow roof, and it looks so peculiar that on this model, again copying the prototype, the darker coloured roof actually does look a lot better, and certainly it's something that in the real world would show up the dirt a lot less. Not that these engineers' wagons, that was a big consideration, but certainly it does make the wagon look very much like it has a presence. There's not really much else that can be said about these that hasn't already been said in the other review that I carried out of the Kerno Rail Queen Mary brake van. So I'm going to wrap this up now because there's no point in treading back over the same ground. Overall, I think this model is really nice, and it's something that, as the limited edition produced for Model Rail magazine, it sold out pretty quickly, and it's been quite desirable and commanded some, in some cases, quite silly prices on internet auction sites. So for anybody who really wanted the Queen Mary brake in this livery, but didn't have the budget or the inclination to pay those kind of prices, even at the £22 that I paid for this, that's a lot more reasonable and allows you to complete your collection with relative ease. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and don't forget to like this video, share it too, and also subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so, and that way you can keep fully up to date with new videos as and when they go up, and also have a quick browse back through there and see all of that content that we've got going down there. It's not just box openings and reviews, we've got all sorts there, so it's a bit of something for everyone. Anyway, until next time, you take very good care of yourself, and this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying bye for now. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knob T Mouse. Thanks, and catch you later.